Let's see.
Broadcasting live from sunny California, it's 10 Minutes in Tinseltown with Ms. Meliz, a.k.a. Melissa Reyes. And now, from the left corner, your host, Melissa Reyes.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Tinseltown. This is a special edition of Tinseltown. We're live this morning from Hollywood, California, and it is a Saturday morning today, and it's special because we have Martha Brettschneider with us, and we're going to be talking about her new book, Blooming into Mindfulness. So welcome, Martha. Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm really thrilled to be here.
Oh, I'm really happy because I didn't know you from anybody until yesterday. We got a chance to chat a little bit, and we just have so many things in alignment, I think was the word we used. It was really exciting. Right. Yeah. So I want to welcome everybody here and thank you for coming to see the live broadcast of this interview with Martha. And if you're at MsMeliz.com, thank you so much for joining us there. And if you're new to Blab, I appreciate you coming in. You're able to leave comments and ask questions, and we'll address them in a little bit. But first, we're just going to chat a little bit. So, Martha, why don't you tell me a little about yourself?
Thank you, Melissa. Well, I am a writer and a blogger and a photographer and a gardener, and I'm just very passionate about mindfulness and inspiring mindful living in other people. I didn't always used to be this person. I used to be a very left-brained international economist, very stress-filled, and I was diagnosed with breast cancer shortly before my 45th birthday, which really forced me to sit down and shut up for a year. And during that time, I had an epiphany, really, that I describe in the book, but it was really kind of a funny situation, but I don't need to go into those details. But it basically revealed to me that my ego had been holding my own happiness hostage. And the revelation that I didn't have to buy into that was the reason that I wrote the book, because I just knew that I wasn't alone in really being the source of my own suffering.
I hear what you're saying completely. And, that term, your ego holding your, what was it?
Ego holding my happiness hostage.
Your happiness hostage.
Yeah, a little bit too many H's there.
No, I got interrupted for a second. But your ego holding your happiness hostage. So, you're a happy enough person, everything's going great for you, and then something happens and you're in your head. Completely.
Right, yes. I mean, but the being in my head part was really the issue started long before that. Really, my whole adult life, I had, like so many of us, we have a very clear idea of how our lives will play out and how our careers will play out and what we're supposed to be doing with our lives. And I had just a series of events all along the way before the cancer diagnosis that I just resisted at every single turn. I never imagined, I never imagined I'd live in the suburbs. I never imagined I'd be quitting my very high profile job to raise my kids, all sorts of those turning points in our lives. And, but the whole time, that what I call the bullying voice in your head saying, oh, you're not doing what society thinks you should be doing. You're not doing enough with that master's degree. You're a loser because you'd rather be working in your garden. And my garden was actually my first mindfulness mentor, but at the time I didn't have the language to recognize what the impact of that was. So I call that the bullying voice. And it took cancer and being forced to stop for a year for enough space in my head to be created to learn those lessons and really be able to tease out which of those bullying thoughts were coming from ego, which is any of the bullying thoughts are coming from ego, and that we can say, no, I'm not buying into that anymore. So just really being able to embrace purpose from that point on.
Do you find it easy, or is it something that you continue to struggle with?
The bully voice, do you mean?
Yeah.
I have been practicing mindfulness now for about 5 years, coming up close to 5 years. I've been meditating daily for close to 4 years. And because of that daily practice and writing through it all and taking other steps in my whole mind, body, spirit wellness package, I have a pretty good handle on it. It certainly is not, ego is still there in all of us, but I can recognize it immediately when something is coming from that place. And I've gotten to the point where I listen very carefully to my body. If I feel a tightness in my chest or in my stomach, different discomfort, then I know to step back and say, wait, what's going on here? I need to take a breath. And am I acting with purpose in this particular moment? Or is that voice that is driving me to act in a way that I'm not comfortable with afterwards? I need to get a handle on that. And so by just shining a light on that, by learning to recognize where those different types of thoughts are coming from, and knowing that they're all fleeting, that as long as we don't just keep mulling over it, we can let go and get back to our balanced, calm frame of mind.
It's so true. It's just about, reminding yourself, or just saying it, stating it. What is my intention? Why am I here? What am I, this mood is something that's going to change in the situation, is what's more important. And, it's that inner dialogue, really. And I love when I meet someone who understands that. But the reason why I ask if it's hard or if it's easy is because I find it to be mindfulness and thinking in the now, not to be a challenge, but just to be something that the reason we call it practice is we have to continue to practice. It's not natural. It doesn't just happen for anybody. And I think, you had a pivot point. We had, I had a change of heart, and everybody seems to have in adulthood get that. But I know people who from childhood are just so easy like that, and just go, and it's so lovely. But you can, if you're not that way, you can be that way, and you don't have to wait till something drastic or traumatic happens.
Absolutely. I love the notion of mindfulness and meditation being, it's exercise for the brain. It's like a fitness program. And it absolutely, and neuroscience shows that as well, that the more we might fall into a regular route, a regular direction that we've taken, how we've reacted to a particular situation in the past. But when we can recognize a fork in the road and that we have a decision, that you actually carve out new neural pathways that way. So there's a physiological impact that neuroscience has proven to be the case. And this comes with practice. It just comes with daily practice. And you have days when your meditation or mindfulness practice goes smoothly. And then you have days when, if you're sitting, and I meditate 20 minutes each morning. I'm not one of those, I must meditate 2 hours a day. Like Deepak Chopra said, I think I heard him say he meditates 3 hours every morning. I'm like, not happening. Nice. That's not for regular people who have to, raise kids and do dishes and drive carpools and have jobs, hold down jobs, all of that. So it's practice, and you have to. But the most important thing, really, is just being kind and gentle to yourself, and knowing it's not a straight path. So if you miss a day, or it's just like if you miss a workout, be kind to yourself and just say, that's okay. Be gentle with yourself, and don't let that bullying voice again take over, because you have a choice, and you just start all over again the next day. And with little tiny chunks of practice each day, really makes it, whether it's easy or not, it gets easier, but it's never done. You're never finished, but it just makes life so much more efficient, because you are not chewing all on that negative energy anymore.
I'm really
And
glad you said that. That word efficient, and that is definitely a technical business lady's point of view.
that's an
Where you come
economist.
from
That's a
that.
former economist
Yes.
point of view. Yeah.
Yes, and in business, we want to be efficient. I was an executive assistant, and efficiency is really a primary, focus. So feeling like you can be efficient by being mindful is wonderful. That's amazing, and I know that everybody who's watching that I see here in the room on Blab can relate to that because I've had these conversations personally with each of them, and I don't know if you know Ruth. She's on here. She's Captain Cruncher, but she she's has a brain game, and she's really into to that neuroscience connection with mindfulness. So she says in the side here that you're speaking her language.
Oh,
So
excellent.
I've interviewed her. You might want to go check that out. She was a
Definitely.
pretty remarkable person. And then, of course, Cindy I know from Snapchat and Blab Nation. And Cindy also is an artist. So, we kind of think a lot on the creative side. But I love the fact that the science is coming and blending together with this, and it makes so much more sense to so many more people, and that's going to be a great step towards peace for everybody. So I love that. But you know what? I feel like we're I joined Twitter today and able to access Blab and hear Martha. Oh, well, thank you. I just addressed that we have some people in the room that are new. She just joined Twitter just so she could be here to watch you.
Oh,
And
that's Eden Cook. She lives in Florida and does amazing work as well. She's a yoga teacher and teaches mindfulness to children as well. So yeah,
well,
she's
this is
awesome.
a perfect example of a reason why Twitter, sometimes we don't want to be, on Twitter in social media because our lives are very much in the present, but it is a vehicle to use to see each other and to share. And I think it's really positive. So I'm so glad you're here, Eden. Thank you.
I was just going to say about the social media, because I was a total poo-pooer of social media until a few years ago when I had the idea to write this book and was doing my research, and everybody said, you've got to be on social media. And I have found it to be, if handled mindfully, really an incredible community service in terms of spreading positive energy in the world, which I think is also very much a part. I think it's our responsibility to do that. And I love the power of social media to be able to do that. I wanted to show you, Melissa, this picture in my book. This is not one of their, I'm probably more popular on social media because of my garden photography. So this picture is not garden photography. I don't know if you can see that. Can you see this little lady with all of the zigzags around her? So that was me before. That's my before picture. And I just think that's this issue of energy, because that picture, I went to a parenting class when my boys are 17 and 20 now, but when they were about 5 and 7, and I was just swimming in a sea of testosterone. We talked about this.
Oh, I say that all the time. Yes.
And I didn't handle it well. And they loved getting me to blow my top, which was very, very easy to do in those days. And I went to a parenting class and I told the parenting instructor that my kids loved to do whatever they could to set me off. And I gave this example of, they were both in timeouts in their room. I was trying to work on a deadline in my home office, and I heard the sound of hitting and screaming. And I went screaming to their rooms, which are next to each other. And one of them was hitting his own leg and the other one was screaming. They totally set me up, and then they burst out laughing when I fell into the trap. So I told the parenting instructor that story, and she drew a picture of that stick figure lady with the zigzags. And she said, "This is you." And she said, those zigzags are the negative energy that you are spewing into the world, and it's contagious. And it was absolutely the case. But it would be another 10 years until I discovered how to erase those zigzags. So I knew I was the source of the problem. But it's the same way with our impact, that our positive energy is contagious as well. And I have experienced this, and I talk about some examples of this in the book, how we have the power to diffuse. And again, this is an economics term. We have the power to reduce net suffering in the world by our own presence and by our own diffusing other people's negative energy with our own positive energy.
Writing that one down.
Reducing our net suffering, own personally and collectively as well by how we go about in the world.
So that's just brilliant. You're just brilliant. I just love it. I love the stories. So let's start from the gardening. Tell me about what master gardening means and what it took for you to become a master gardener and how that fit in the timeline with when you discovered that you had cancer and that you had to go through your recovery.
Right. Well, the gardening happened. I certainly, I didn't grow up gardening. I really had I had a very nomadic first 30 years, really. My family moved a lot when I was young, but then even when I got out of graduate school and had my first security clearance, you have to give all your addresses in the previous 15 years. I was 27 at the time. And I had 18 addresses in the previous 15 years. And that didn't even count 5 or 6 moves that I had done with my family. So when we moved, the very first line in my book is the suburbs were never part of the plan. And so I found myself getting married and moving to the suburbs. I was 30. And I was lucky enough to live next door to a wonderful woman who happened to be a gardener. Really through her mentoring and inspiration, just watching her and watching the peace that she found there, I started trying out some things in my own garden. And I was shocked. I was rewarded by staying in one place for a while. Perennials would come back and I had no idea. I just felt this connection there. And again, it was the only place where my head was quiet. And my husband, recognizing this, I think, signed me up with that. It was a birthday gift for my 35th birthday. He signed me up for the Fairfax County Master Gardening Program, which is a 3-year training program where you serve as a volunteer for the cooperative extension agent. So it's a lot of it's courses and it's a whole lot of volunteer work, and I love it. So but again, the understanding what my formal dive into mindfulness study didn't come until after cancer. That was about 10 years after I became a master gardener. But the interesting part of what led to, so I always say my garden has helped me grow much more than the other way around. The first gift and I call her a she, the first gift she gave me was the discovery of even feeling what a quiet mind felt like, which I had never before in my life experienced. Always forgiving me. The year I had cancer, she totally forgave me for not being able to be out there working. And then the year that I was writing this book, I started a blog to help flesh out ideas for the book and play with voice and that sort of thing. And I started using the blog as an accountability tool when I decided to take on a new challenge. So once I definitely had the direction of my book down, in 2014, I said, okay, this is the year I'm writing the book. I announced it to my blog followers and my other friends. But the other thing that happened in 2014 was I took on the 365project.org photo a day challenge.
The same year you started writing a book?
The same year I had seen a friend's photos on Facebook. He was putting up these incredible photos and I realized he was doing it every day. And for some reason, I just had this pull, which now I recognize because I am fully embracing my creative side. At that point, I wasn't quite yet. But it was just this pull that you are supposed to do that. You're supposed to do that 365 challenge. And again, the dialogue in my head was, no, you're writing your book that year. You can't take on 2 things. But then I was thinking, how hard can it be doing a photo a day? I said, I'm going to use this as a mindfulness practice. It will force me to stop for a few minutes each day and notice the details around me, find beauty in something out there and put it out there to the world and again, as a kind of a positive energy boost. So And I had never used anything more than the automatic settings on my camera. I had taken travel pictures, I had taken soccer pictures, but I had never had a photography class before. So I started on January 1st. My first picture was an iPhone picture from the top of a ski slope in Canada or something. Terrible picture, but I jumped in that way. And as most new things, it's like blogging. Your first several whatever of blogging, they're terrible. So anyway, I just was putting myself out there. Once my garden started blooming that year, and the book has a lot of gardening themes in it as well, I became fascinated with macro garden photography, and it just evolved. And by the end of the year, and I had only been putting the photos up on social media. I mean, I'd put it on Facebook and the 365.org site and Google+. So I guess it was sometime towards the end of the year, beginning of 2015, I was shocked when I was asked to be the featured artist at a local arts event. I had never even printed anything out before. And so I had about 6 weeks to suddenly become like a real quote unquote professional artist. And so I was this mad scramble. And I'm still, of course, working on the book. And by that point, the manuscript was done, but it was in the editing phase. And so I got greeting cards together, and I tested out my photos on regular paper and on metal and on canvas. Now, canvas isn't so great, but the details of my really close-up macro photography look great on metal, actually. So, which can also be used outdoors. So that's kind of my thing so now. Neat. And I had 3 shows last year, and I still when I'm at one of those shows, somebody comes up and they say, "Oh, we'd like to talk to the artist." And I look around and say, "Wait, who's that?" So it's again, having and the funny thing is that if you look at my penmanship, I have the penmanship of like a second grader. So I can. That's why I love typing and writing and that kind of thing. When it looks pretty. So it's been stressful signing books for me because I love the cover of my book. It's one of my photographs, and but then I have to put my ugly penmanship in there. So.
No, it's beautiful. That's part of who you are. So well that I'm just overwhelmed by this, and like I told you, I don't have questions set up, but it makes me think of a deep question, and I don't want to go to a negative way, but do you think that all of these things happened to you around the same time because your attitude changed when you probably had similar thoughts to me, when you're going through having cancer, that you might not live forever and you got to do it now, putting it lightly, just kind of, did you get an extra energy boost at that time? Like, let's live life now. I'm never going to have another chance. Or
absolutely. And it's funny, Melissa, because the notion, even though I resisted all of these sort of messages about what I was supposed to do with my life, I talk about this in the book. When I was 25. Or 24 or 25, and I was moving from Seattle to Boston for graduate school, my sister had my astrological chart read. And I'm, again, going to study economics and stuff. So I sort of, okay, that's cool, that's nice. And the lovely, lovely woman who read my chart said, your job this time around, you already learned how to do career in a previous life. That's not your job, right? That's not your job this time around. Your job is a spiritual one, and your job is about going deeper into that. And it's not about career. I'm about to literally, like, my car is packed. I'm driving across country to start graduate school, and I'm like, what a bunch of crock, right? I mean, it's like,
that couldn't be more wrong.
And my sister wasted her money, and so when it turned out that I never in a million years imagined that I did end up quitting my job when our nanny skipped town with a guy on the internet. But I did remember that. I thought, oh, well, she did say it wasn't about career, but I still made myself suffer for years going forward because I wouldn't accept that. So when my head was cleared, when I was forced to sit down and shut up for a year, And I became very sensitized to these sort of positive and negative energy flows. All of this sort of came coming back to me. And so the epiphany I talk about with recognizing that ego voice is not part of my true self, I was at that point only for the very first time primed to really understand that lesson. And it was the convergence of all of those things. It was recognizing that how fleeting life is, recognizing that we do have the choice to buy in to those thoughts that don't serve us.
Right.
And I absolutely, I mean, so many people can't stand it when you say, I'm grateful for my cancer, but on so many, it took that for me to sit down and shut up for a year. And not only that, it took cancer for me I had to hear from a cancer physician, for example, that I needed to start exercising every day because there is a link. It's not all cancers, but breast cancer is one of the cancers that responds to cardio exercise in particular. So if you are doing enough cardio exercise, it reduces your risk of recurrence.
That's a good reason to do it.
Yes, so that will scare you into getting out there and doing stuff. So that led to a big focus for me on the physical fitness side, which at the same time I was going on with this mindfulness and the mind, just the whole mind, body, spirit link became so clear to me. And I just saw the direct benefits of it for my life. And again, it's about habit formation. And our wellness is dependent on our ability to try to develop healthy habits, forgive ourselves when... Are we off?
No, I tried to drop the link to my website, which I did, but the audio was on. So you heard yourself from the live thing on the website. I'm sorry. Okay. I'm
here. Can you hear me?
Okay. Yeah, fine.
Yeah, I'm good. We're all good.
I heard it double.
Okay.
All right. So, that's one of the pictures, but I wanted to show the one while you were talking. I was trying to show a picture of you in the mud, emerging from the mud.
The mud run. Yeah, that's a picture. That picture is not in the book, but I talk about that mud run.
You sent me that love, and you were telling me about your fitness thing, so I was going to do that, but now I don't know how to get it off. Oh, here. Okay, so continue. I'm so sorry, and that's one of those things I'll have to edit out.
Yes, no worries at all. So anyway, and the importance of girlfriends is a huge factor here as well. So,
I have to say that I haven't read your book yet, but I did read the introduction last night, and thank you for sending that to me. And it is just the introduction. As I was reading, I'm thinking I was already reading the book. It's so revealing. I found it very revealing and yet so concise.
And Economist. That's all the Economist writing I used to do.
It was very, this is what you're going to get in the beginning and middle and end. And now, I'm really anxious to read it. And so, but walk me through you've told us about your gardening and that being your mindful mentor. And I have a question about that. And how the cancer made you sit down and shut up for a year, and you discovered your, ability to challenge yourself. So then you became Project 365 photographer, and you're writing a book, and you're exercising. I mean, a lot of people just get on a treadmill, turn the TV on, and maybe call their friends. You really went out there and did everything. And are you an overachiever, or are you just what? Pushed you to do the mud run. That's not funny. Exercise. That's really crazy.
You know what it is? It comes back to purpose. It comes back to, why am I here? And
I laugh because I'm asking that question right now in another forum. So
right. Okay. Yeah. For one thing, so I have to say, when I started running, and for me, it had to be high impact enough, because just my when I was tested, when my heart is elevated, it goes back to resting rate very quickly. That means that a Pilates class was not going to be enough for me. So I was told that I have to have my heart rate up over 140 beats per minute for at least 30 minutes. Ooh, most days.
They're really on a treadmill.
And again, because I'm all about efficiency and really hate running, hated running. I would get all itchy. I had a physical, I was allergic to it. I mean, I hated running. And, but it was the fastest way I could get it over with. Like a treadmill doesn't, it won't do it. And I like being outside. I could just keep going if I was outside. So, but I couldn't run for more than 5 minutes. When I started, I could not run more than 5 minutes. And now I must say, I'm very proud to say that last year I ran my first half marathon. Wow. But that's because I am connected with this wonderful women's running group, and it's a national organization. It's called Moms Run This Town. So you can there are chapters all over the place, and if there's not a chapter in your town, you can easily start a town. You can start a town too if you want, but if you go to momsrunthistown.com or .org, I can't remember which it is. But I was totally intimidated by some of these women who are in there, some of the women travel all around the world to run marathons. And I am all about, I don't want to suffer. That's for me, I don't want to suffer. Right. But I was blogging through that suffering. And I was first asked to do the first distance race. And I talk a little bit about some of those first forays into these kind of physical challenges. And it was all about the girlfriends. It was all about being there, helping each other, being inspired by other people. And the first time I had somebody say to me, my girlfriend and I are going and we're running a 5K because we read your blog. And if you can do that, you totally inspired us to get out there. And I just about cried. I mean, I just about cried right there. You know, so to me, I have run kind of I ran a 10-miler because a friend of mine who was going through cancer treatment asked if I would run a 10-miler with her. And I first said, no, why would I do that? I'm like, this is your cancer patient friend. Like, how could you possibly? So we walked that one the first time. And then she wanted to do it the following year. And then she had a recurrence. So she's okay now, but she couldn't do that next Army 10-miler. And that's when I said, I'm going to run my part and your part. So I trained and I ran that whole thing for her, for Donna. And I then connected with other women training for that, who one of whom, this wonderful British woman, Chrissy, she said, we have to run a half marathon. And again, I'm like, no, because again, now I don't have ego. Like it's not about proving anything. I couldn't even tell you what my times were in any of those races. I don't even know. I just like getting to the starting line without being injured is a total victory for me. And then I don't even care what happens. And then you just have fun. So, but so when Chrissy, I first, of course, said no to Chrissy about the half marathon. And then she posted a picture of the two of us going over the finish line of a 5K or 10K. And some guy back in the UK, a friend of hers, made a snarky comment about her Lycra shirt and that she had gained weight in the States or something. And I got so mad at him. I just said, I'm running that half marathon with her.
You can't say anything.
If you need me for something, I'm there with you on the long race. But nobody needed me this year for the spring when my book was coming out. So I'm really grateful that I wasn't having to fit that training.
3 years in a row.
So for me, it's not about overachieving. It's not about the competitive thing. It's all about if I can be there for somebody, and that makes it fun, and it's about purpose. So that was really wrong. I apologize.
No, I love it. I love the stories that came up as you were talking about that and the way you just lit up. And, I think that you are so amazing. I can't wait to read the book. And so I'm going to take a moment to put the link in the chat in case anybody wants to check it out. Now, I think they should just go to your website, right?
Yeah, or they can go to the They can go to my website. You can link through there. You can go through the Amazon page, whichever works.
Okay,
I've been so gratified by the response, Melissa. There's this really cool organization called the Modern Femme Movement, and they have added it to and it's all about encouraging women to take care of themselves and finding balance in their lives and learning to put on your oxygen mask first, but so that you can take care of everybody else better. They've added it to their 2016 must-read book list. So it's on there with Melissa Gilbert's book and Big Magic and all of that. So I was so gratified about that, and so I'm just thrilled with, and it's connecting with so many different demographics, different age groups, and it's just really exciting because again, I've just been going completely by inspiration here, and it's going to get into the right hands. It's going to connect with the people who are supposed to find it, and it's been really fun. It's been really fun.
Well, you can get information about Martha and what she's doing right now on her blog and with her book at MsMeliz.com, and connect with her I have put the link here in the side. Actually, right here in the center, you see Blooming into Mindfulness, and that is on her Amazon page, which link is in the side. So I also want to say hello to a couple people in the room that just came in. Thank you so much for being here. And let's see. So Hillary is here, and I'm sorry. I want to say Corinder, right? Corinder is here. So some people I know from the internet. And so welcome to you. And if everybody would just take a moment and tweet, I would really appreciate it. We don't have a lot of tweets right now. So that's a feature that you could do here. Up at the top, I think, is where there's a little share box. Let me see if that works. No, that's something else. Where is it? Oh, and from Anchor. Corinder, I know from Anchor. So, here. Okay. So you can see on the side that there have been some tweets. And if anybody wanted to go over here and tweet right now a message out to their followers, that would be great, because I would love for everybody to meet Martha and to connect with me at 10 Minute on Twitter. So that is something you could do, and that really helps out, because then we can follow up and connect with you later and see how you liked the book, and if you came to MsMeliz.com, and if you'd like to be on another episode with me on Tinseltown. On Tinseltown. I used to call it 10 Minutes in Tinseltown. So now, I keep having to pause and go, okay, and the reason why is because I never did 10 minutes. But I still have an iTunes, if anybody wanted to ever check it out, I have an iTunes podcast where I take 10 minutes of each interview. But I'm so far behind right now that maybe this summer I'll get caught up and people can binge listen to 10-minute snippets of all the interviews. Yeah, just living in the moment and going with the flow. I love it. So that's all. I don't need to look back, but sometimes it is nice to find new people that way and bring them in, and so they can meet wonderful people like you. So, okay. That was your little break. Now I have a question for you. This is interesting because I really kind of want to know what it was before and what you would say it is now, but what is your true core value? What is the core value that's your purpose?
My purpose, my core value is to reduce net suffering, reduce the net supply of negative energy in the world.
In the world.
I do. I see this all. I see it is one person at a time. It starts with my family. Absolutely. Always starts with my family. It's my biggest parenting tool. And it's also, parenting is, of course, the biggest source of my mindfulness failures. But I call my sons my biggest, my Buddha in soccer cleats is what I used to because you always get another chance to practice and try again. So
wisdom quotes.
I just think that our power to choose positive energy and to diffuse the negative in the world is what all of us can be doing. I feel like that's what the universe wants us to be doing. I feel like the universe intends us to be happy.
And what are ways,
you
know, what are ways that you can control or can, control is probably not the best word, but what are ways that you can make that happen and put that into action, reducing the net suffering of everybody?
Well, I think that you can't do it all at once, of course,
right?
but you can choose not to react. If somebody comes and pokes you, you can choose to not stir up the drama energy and step back. I have a chapter in my book where I talk about a scene where I got to practice this. And I had this crazy thing happen in our local post office parking lot where I won't go into it but you have to read the chapter. It's called Presence Power.
Okay.
I had like this Groundhog Day moment where two equal weird things happened to me in this same post office parking lot. And one, I failed and I poked the energy. And then the other one, I very consciously chose not to. And I met the aggression with kindness. And I watched that person transform in front of me to the point where they asked me to go out for coffee afterwards. It was crazy. So
it's possible. Yeah.
We just getting our own ego in check and not listening when it says, "Hey, you deserve to be treated better than that," without being a martyr, but you're just being present and you're just taking the drama out, taking the drama energy out, and not focusing on past or future or getting into your victim mentality. So I just think approaching the world with kindness and just the power of saying good morning or just a kind word to somebody half the time can be transformative.
And, you know, it is about, and, you know, transformative is such an action word. It really is. I love it because it makes me feel like we're moving forward and we're making a step and formation. It's evolving. It's always, you know, growing. And I love that. And so I think we have so many themes and things that we like, that we relate to with you and I wanted to put up my book because it's, you know, it came out in 2013 and I'm getting ready to write another book, but it's not anywhere near the format and beautifully laid out book like yours is, but it's little blog posts put together and so many of the same themes and concepts are there. And so I just wanted to point that out and let you know that I'll be sending you a copy of my book because I'd love for you to read it.
I'm so excited.
Thank you. And so, and thank you for, you know, sharing your transformation with us on Tinseltown, because, you know, Martha, you are a superstar to me, and that's why you're here, and that's why I'm interviewing you, so that our world can be a little brighter, because you shine so much light from your soul, and it makes us better just to know you. So thank you so much. I'm so happy to meet you. So do you have any questions for me, or if anybody in the room now has a question for Martha, you know, maybe you can we can answer some questions, or if you have any questions for me, now would be the time, or anything else you'd want to share that I may not have picked up on. That would be great.
Well, I did want to say one more thing when you were asking how we can do that, how we can share positive energy. And I think really we can't do that if we don't love ourselves first. And if we don't learn to love ourselves first, because if we don't do that, we are not able to share that with other people. We can't approach the world that way. So I think that really is and that's the control that we have, is we really only have control over ourselves and our own reactions. So I'm backing up a point there.
So the question is, how can we share positive energy? And Martha, so, you know, really it does always start with loving ourselves and being able to be in a positive place. You can't go say, you all be positive now.
Right. It's like saying, calm down.
Yeah.
Calm down right now.
So yeah, that it really does. And it could just be by being, you know, I've always said, live, be, do, you know, just being a positive energy in someone else's way can
And
just help them
also
along.
right, exactly. And it's also about gratitude, practicing gratitude. I mean,
Yes.
it's almost kind of a pat thing, but that's how the photography has helped me so much as well. It's first with the gardening. I think I was so grateful that my garden kept growing even when I didn't know what I was doing. But
That's
looking
the
around
energy
for
you
those
put into it.
details, right. But
Yeah.
looking at the details around, just around, we have so much. We especially in this country, for most of us, we have. And even if you go to third world countries, you will meet people there who are so utterly happy. I mean, they just shine a light, even in the midst of none of our material possessions or comforts. So it's just training. Again, it's training. It's just habits. It's training. These are learnable skills. Some people may come into this world having learned some of this stuff already, but these are all trainable skills if you just set yourself up to want to do that.
So, how do you make gratefulness a habit and it not be too kitschy? Cliche.
I think that's a good, and not have it be too right. So for me, I guess it helped having had cancer.
Brings you down to.
I was grateful for things in my life before I had the cancer. I had a pretty not terribly stable upbringing when we moved a lot, and there were some family issues. My father had bipolar disorder and committed suicide when I was 13. But you learn. So when I was probably through enough therapy, I was able to choose a guy where I wasn't repeating that. I have a really stable, supportive husband. And so I was able to recognize, grateful for, stability in my life, and that my kids were in a safe spot, and that they could take that safety for granted for that. So there were those sorts of things, but just, I mean, the resentment I used to carry about having to do laundry and do dishes, and I would just get so angry about having to do that and feel I should be doing more important things in the world than this, and carrying that resentment around. And now I literally am able to, even though I do get annoyed sometimes if somebody was supposed to do the dishes and didn't, but even those activities can be opportunities to practice gratitude. Absolutely. Hey, I've got a washing machine. I've got socks that I can fold. Exactly. I've got warm water that I can wash dishes with. So that kind of thing. That might sound kitschy to some people, but I think maybe having traveled a lot as well, I really do appreciate those things and the tiny details.
So when somebody wants to practice gratefulness and hasn't really experienced it, I feel like I know personally, let me just talk about myself. I feel fears welling up, and I know that I found that you can't be grateful and afraid at the same time. So because as soon as you start feeling grateful, it relaxes you and you think about, pardon the expression, but warm, happy thoughts, you're like, and then you relax, and then you're not afraid. You build up a little bit of a protective mode where you can go forward and try things and do things. And so, just to be able to turn that on and know that you have the power to turn that on whenever you're starting to feel those negative thoughts is so powerful.
Exactly.
And then, of course, I started in my 20s with Oprah being so influential and starting that gratitude journal and making the lists of things that I'm thankful for. And, and it really did help. It really helped me through that time. So, I personally don't think it's cliche at all, but I think that sometimes we keep hearing these terms and then they become so, we take it for granted, I guess. Oh yeah, I'll have to be grateful.
But I think too, and I'm not positive about this, but what I do know about neuroscience, and again, this issue of carving the pathways, it is when you practice that and you experience that, and you get to know that feeling becomes familiar, and the feeling of gratitude becomes familiar.
Mm-hmm.
That is a new neural pathway, and it gets easier to fall into that. And so as you start practicing, it does get easier to notice those things.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
That's really interesting, because so it's true that sometimes I think I am feeling this way, or I have a handle on these things because I'm older. But now that you just turned on a little light for me, in that it is because I've been practicing this for 20 years now. Like, so if you're older or my age and crotchety and set in your ways and negative all the time, you've been practicing that the whole time. It's never too late to change, but it's not like, it does. Those pathways are carved, negative or positive. It's what you put into it, right?
It's never too late to start this. I mean, I see this with my own mother, who's 82, and she has completely, I mean, she doesn't meditate, but she's completely has learned how to look for positive things in life after having had a very difficult life experience for parts of her life. Mm-hmm. I saw a video going around social media where there was another mindfulness author, and it was his mother, and she was something like 95 years old, and she was addressing a group in a synagogue, and she said, "My son has ruined my life." And she said, "We Jewish moms, we like to complain about everything." And she then goes on to tell this very funny story about he got her to start practicing gratitude. Like, he was there for a couple of weeks, and they just did this every single day. And she said, "And now he's ruined my life because I don't complain about things anymore."
There's no more fun.
It changed the persona. And so many people carry that persona of being the dramatic, drama-carrying, I'm so interesting because my life is so hard kind of person.
Mm-hmm. And I got called out on that this week.
Sorry?
I got called out on that this week by someone. And I didn't realize that whenever I would say something like, "I've got 11,000 unread emails in my inbox," that came across as being like some type of challenge I was trying to prove. And that's not. It's just a number. Yeah.
That's that
people
person's
think
ego.
of it that way.
That's that person's ego, though, reacting to that.
Right.
Saying that.
And
right.
I believe that. But you know what? I thought I can easily check those off and just say, make them unread, and the number's not there because that number isn't important to me. It's the point is that email isn't important to me enough to open it all. Right. It's not that I'm going to answer your email if you send it to me, but all that other stuff is just clutter, and the number grows, and there it is. Yeah. So why do we play the blame game? Why do we blame? Why do we say, my son made me this way, or my boss made me this way, or the country I live in is the way I am?
Because that's ego. That's just fully ego. And we used to. I love the notion that so Eckhart Tolle talks about a pain body that we carry, that everybody has a pain body that we carry inside us. And you can it's stronger in some people than another. And if your pain body is activated, you want to do your best to poke other people and make them activate their pain body and make them feel as bad as you do. Pain body. Yes. So his book called A New Earth, Awakening to Your Life's Purpose talks about, that's the book that I accidentally downloaded this book when I was recovering. I honestly thought this book was going to give me career advice. I'd never heard of him. He's a big spiritual teacher.
What is it called?
I know now. It's by Eckhart Tolle, Tolle, and the title is A New Earth, Awakening to Your Life's Purpose.
Okay.
Which again, I thought, it's going to tell me what career to go back to now that my kids are old enough.
Purpose, right. That's what you thought was purpose at the time.
So then
career.
This whole big things, I was not looking for a spiritual teacher, and I resisted it. It was crazy. But then when he started talking about ego, I was like, oh my God, that's me. Like, that's totally me. So
you had an awakening.
I did. But it's just so if you start blaming somebody, if you notice, if you stop yourself, or even just say what you were going to say, but notice how that feels in your body, it doesn't feel good in your body. It doesn't feel good in your body. And my favorite, Eckhart Tolle, this is my favorite sort of talking soundbite of his, is that there are no problems, there are only situations.
I think I said something earlier like that. Situation. Yeah. It's a situation, not yourself.
Yeah. So it's just a situation to be dealt with. And when we use the word problem, it adds that whole drama thing, and somebody's doing something to me. And even if you're at a red traffic light, it's like, wow, this traffic light's making me late.
Right. You wouldn't have been late to begin with if you hadn't been late.
Wires and electricity, right? Yeah. So,
wow, it's just so wonderful. So, we have some comments on the side that I'd love to address, and that is well, first of all, Cindy said she needs to start this because she's become short-tempered, and I think we were talking about the gratitude, and it's so true, that does help. And then Colin is also a coach, and he says we don't understand how our mind works, and yeah, it's true. Our mind, those thoughts, that pathway that we take is very much based on that habit and those paths that we've carved in our brain, right? And then, so, we can change that if we knew how our mind works. And then Eden is saying, my husband always says there's a statute of limitations on childhood trauma. In other words, we can't blame our childhood on family forever. Right. Got to move on and create your happiness and goodness. Absolutely. I feel like we, statute of limitations is a great way to put it, but another cliche, I guess, because I work in a middle school, so cliches are like real big. Let it go. It is really about releasing that power that person had, whether they had it or not, but we allowed them to have it on us. Mm-hmm. So, when you can release that and forgive if possible, but at least just let it go. It's over and move on, because you're in control of what you do
and
now.
You take the lesson. There's always a lesson and that's where, even then, it's a great gratitude challenge and opportunity for gratitude, because there's always a lesson. So even when the most trying situation, it will always be my first response. What am I supposed to be learning from this? Or if I see a potential thing that could happen, and again, that's going into the future, which is you can't take action anyway. And when you start fantasizing about potential outcomes, that's not going to serve you. But even if I'm trying to prepare myself, I'll say, okay, I just got to be open to what the lesson will be if this happens, and it takes the energy out of it. And of course, more often than not, the thing does not happen when I've accepted it. Just whatever, bring it on. I know there's going to be a lesson, in positive or negative. It's just my job to squeeze out what I can.
That there's always a lesson. It's so true. I've been trying to put this other question in the side, and that Cindy asks, what would be one word that we could tell ourselves when we start complaining? I just say, stop it.
Breathe. For me, it would be breathe.
Too. Yes.
Because if we take that nanosecond to not react immediately and give us that little bit of spaciousness, it takes the power of that ego voice away. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I love so Dr. Jill Bolt Taylor wrote this book called My Stroke of Genius. I talk about this a little bit in the book. She had a stroke when she was 35 or something, and she's a brain scientist. So she knew what was going on. It closed down the entire left side of her brain, which is the whole thought, language center and all of that. So she's continued to do brain research, and she's just a really inspiring writer and speaker about mindfulness and neuroscience. But she tells us that when you have an outside trigger that triggers up something that you want to complain about or get angry about, it only takes 90 seconds for those chemicals that are released that are making you feel agitated. It takes 90 seconds for those to work their way out of your body if you don't revisit and if you don't continue to mull over the same thought.
Wow.
So,
yeah.
And she talks to teenagers about this a lot, which is perfect, right? And so it's just when we hear ourselves starting to complain or react to something, whatever you can do. And even you can say breathe, but anything you can do to bring yourself into a physical sensation of some kind. I mean, pinch your leg or bring your hands together, because our minds can't multitask, and research has proven this now. We can't think and feel a physical sensation at the same time. We really go back and forth. So if you want to stop, and it's another reason why gardening is such a great mindfulness mentor, because it grounds us in our physical sensations. So
when people just take a walk and blow off steam, that's a way to handle it, and let it, dissipate, because otherwise you're going over and over in your head, and
then you're just recharging all of those chemicals that are making you, want to rip the other person's head off.
There's nothing worse than getting in a fight right before you're leaving the house, because then you carry it with you all day, and everybody else feels your tension. And then when you come home, it's just so fast when someone says, "Oh gosh, I'm sorry," or I didn't mean it that way, and everything's fine. You're like, man, why didn't I should have just been late to work, because my whole day. This happened to me recently. I was so upset about something so simple, and probably my hormones were a little off, I'll admit. But
yes,
as soon as I recognized that, I thought, okay, I'm upset. There's a real reason I'm upset. I'm just going to tell them why I'm upset and hope that they understand, but I'm going to take out the anger part out of it.
Exactly.
And it worked out.
Yeah.
So it is just, I think it's recognizing when you start complaining, Cindy, just tell yourself that, that's it. I'm going to switch. Time to switch.
And it's a situation.
Yeah.
What action can you take? Take action where you can, and let go of the rest.
And Colin says, we experience whatever we focus our attention upon. We experience that. It's true. So, if you're angry and you're focusing your attention in that, you're going to be angry all day long. So anything that relocates our focal point will cause us to access a different neural pathway, and consequently, different emotive chemicals start to flow. And Colin, I don't think you were here earlier, but Martha said precisely that earlier, about the neural pathways and, being able to tap into that.
Oh, I like what Colin has to say. He says, I say delete. Yeah. I'm assuming that means, what do you say when you want to start? I love that.
Yeah. Delete.
That's nice and efficient. That appeals to my economist sensibilities.
That's right. Very good. That's good.
That's how much power you have.
You know what, Colin, you may have missed that, but it is a great way to wrap this up and to bring it back to that, and to thank you so much, everybody, for being here, for your questions and your support. And I would love for you to come back, Martha, and talk to me more about your girlfriends and the support you experienced, and being you're a mom of 2 adult boys, and I have 3. And I completely relate to that bond that you found with the girlfriends. I found that through blogging and going to blogging conferences.
Yeah.
And it is just really, really important. So we could do a whole show about that, and that would be great to invite our friends to come and join us. So
there's all sorts of science too on the power of friendships too,
yes,
which is for your overall health and wellness and longevity too.
Yeah, it is important, and men need to have their friends too, and like my husband has a hobby, and so he has his, RC car buddies, and it's just really healthy. It really is, so, but thank you. I can't thank you enough for being here. Thanks everybody for being here for this special episode of Tinseltown, and I'm going to play the music and close us out. So if you have any parting thoughts, now's the time. Do you have any parting thoughts?
I don't have any parting thoughts.
Okay.
But other than that, it was such a joy. It was such a joy to be here. And I'm so happy that we've connected, and I agree with you that we are supposed to be connected and be just grateful for the opportunity and to know you now. Thank you. And thanks for the work you're doing. Thanks for the work you're doing. It's so important.
Thank you. I love it. I'm doing a Snap story today. So if any of you follow me on Snapchat or add me on Snapchat, I on Saturdays I try to kind of sum up the week and talk about what I'm going to be doing the next week, and you can learn a little bit more about me there. So thank you, everybody. Thank you, Martha Brettschneider, and look into getting her book, Blooming into Mindfulness.
Yes, thank you.
So thank you, and time to dance. Can you hear the music?
Yeah.
So thank you, everybody, for coming to Tinseltown tonight or today, and joining us on Flab and at MsMeliz.com. I look forward to seeing you at our regular time on Tuesday evening at around 6 o'clock. And I don't have a guest scheduled for this Tuesday, but we'll be talking about abundance. I want to try to come up with another word for abundance. So, maybe we could do a little mind melding there on abundance and what that means. So thank you, everybody.
Thanks.
At night we feel looser. We usually drink wine. So by this time we're like, Okay, I'm going to pause the recording now.